Hello, it's me again. I'm Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison. This, as always, is the Casual Sports Podcast. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Thursday. Matt, our Wednesday late night adventures out to Cuyahoga Falls unfortunately ended with 2 losses for YSN schools in the regional semifinals. But, round of applause to those teams that made it out there. It takes a lot to get into the regional semifinals, and they just went up against 2 of the best teams I've ever seen play basketball.
Oh man,
in Warrensville Heights. That regional final
that's gonna be a game.
That's going to be very fun to see on Saturday. Unfortunately, YSN will not be there to cover that one, but all credit goes out to those ladies playing for Garrettsville Garfield and, of course, my Liberty Leopards. And, I talked to them before the game. We talked to them afterwards. They didn't seem too shaken up about it.
No.
They were there. They went, hey, you know what? We hit our goal. We won our district final. That was it. At this point, it's like everything out from here is just, decorations on top of the cake. They were hoping for a little bit of frosting on top of that thing, but hey, they got the gold, and that's what they cared about, was getting that district championship. This is a team that'll probably be making the same run next season, hopefully with a better outcome at the end of it. But I mean, what more can you ask for than a regional semifinal appearance? Unfortunately, they had to go against 2 very fantastic teams, and that Warrensville Heights team, despite the fact they were sitting farther back in the rankings than Garfield, I think they showed that was a very underrated squad. I mean, between Ward, Zennia Thomas, Johnson, and a couple others,
Parker.
They had size that no one could compete with. That I have never seen in girls basketball in high school at this level. They were having the same height team as some WNBA players. I mean, this was a college level team playing at high school. I think they've slipped through a lot of rankings so far this season, and I think Warrensville Heights actually might be the team to shock Waynedale out of that spot.
On
the state.
They could.
On the side of Waynedale, though, their leading scorer, Yoder, I mean, she was just having a great day against Liberty's defense. And she was, again, another player with the size advantage over Liberty. And they took advantage of that every single time out. And that was the best game she ever had in her career. I was talking to some of the fans afterwards. And when somebody goes on and has a career day that you don't expect and don't game plan for, it's very hard to win a game. And that's just what happened. A few calls were going against Liberty, and it suffocated any momentum they might have had in that second quarter, and they were just never able to get a flow back. I mean, it was 12-13 after the first, but after that, I think it was 6-8 points they scored in the entire rest of the game, and that goes out to a credit of Waynedale's defense for being able to stop that Liberty team in a way I haven't seen anybody stop Liberty. I mean, some people have kept up with Liberty. I've never seen somebody stop them until that game.
Me either. Until that game. It just Sienna Smith just looked. I mean, not herself, Alek. I mean, usually, did she even score in that game?
I don't think so.
I don't know. But that's definitely something that I noticed quickly on my command. She's just not with it. I don't know if it was the heat in that gym and, what we saw.
That was one of the hottest gyms I've ever stepped foot in.
Man, it was horrible. It was horrible. And, what we saw from Demi Watson as well. I mean, she still kept going, and she never quit at all. I don't think I've ever seen this group of girls ever quit. She'd try to put everything into it, and they just got gassed.
Yeah, that was the one time somebody outran them. I mean, this just had the feeling of, that old Olympics between U.S. and Russia. Russia was the best conditioned team that anyone had ever seen. And then here comes America just training for, a long time to get into that spot, to be able to run with them and eventually overtake them. And that's just kind of what it felt like. Somebody put in the work to beat Liberty, and it felt like they did just that. I mean, somebody finally outworked this team. And I think the fact that it took all the way to the regional semifinals to find somebody that could outwork Liberty was a testament to how great that team was this season.
Yeah, very much.
And then Garfield didn't really hit their shots. I mean, they were getting open looks, but nothing was falling down for them. I don't know what it was about that gym, if it was just the heat. It's an older gym, a lot taller than a lot of the gyms we play in out here in Youngstown. So I don't know if that was a factor to it, what it was, but the 2 teams from the Youngstown greater area were definitely the teams that struggled the most in the shooting departments, despite open looks that we know these girls could have been hitting all season long if they were at home. So I think it was just, I think for some of them maybe the moment was too big, but Kylie Thomas of Liberty, she was the one not struggling. She was going off from downtown. She had 3 triples in that game.
She kept them in it early.
Yeah.
That first quarter, I'm like, all right. right,
I think she
they're
had 6 of
there.
the 12 points after the first.
Yeah.
And then
So
she went cold too there in the second and third quarter. She finally got that third three down in the fourth. But, I just have to say thank you to Liberty and YSN for partnering and giving us this chance down this season. And looking forward to another run next year. I got a feeling we'll be talking about this team once again next season.
Oh, yeah, very much so. We'll be talking about them in which way or another way or whatever. I mean, we're still going to be talking about them. So, but that Warrensville team, that third quarter, Garfield tried to make that run, and they just held on to the ball, and they just wasted time. Like, they were up by 15. I think what Garfield got in within 12. I think they tried to make a run, and they just didn't have time. They just kept pulling the ball. I don't like that. I've never seen that strategy. Just hold on to the ball. Like they attacked that first half was like they weren't letting anybody do anything. And then, they weren't letting that happen in that second half either because they were just holding on to the ball.
It was an interesting strategy, and I think you might see a little bit more of that out of Garfield next season if they're in a point with the lead. I think that's a great strategy to take from them if you can do it correctly. I mean, you have to have guards that can hang on to the ball, and that's something you don't always have.
Yeah, I think Garfield had under 10 possessions in that whole second half.
Yeah, I'd right around there if I had to guess. I mean, it was insane how much that Warrensville Heights smoked the ball. Plus the fact they brought the crowd, man. They brought the pep band. They brought cheerleaders. I had never seen cheerleaders in a pep band show up for girls basketball before. And
it was sweet, though. They were ready.
And I hope a couple of the schools from around here can do something like that next season because we got some great teams in girls basketball around the reach and that don't always get the respect I think they deserve sometimes out of their schools and fan bases around. I feel like a lot of attention goes to boys basketball, but you can't forget the girls that are out here showing off too. We got some great talents around the valley.
Yeah. So it was just fun to watch high school basketball this year.
Yeah, it's been a great
and
ride.
My voice is still gone. My voice has not been the same since these past 3 games. I called the Badger game, and these 2 games last night really just killed it.
Yeah, definitely. But let's go ahead, move out of high school playoffs. I believe for the last time, I think it seems both our seasons are just about over, have come to an end. I still have a chance. Mooney's taking on Springfield tomorrow night. Should be a good one there. But Springfield, a pretty heavy favorite going to that one. But Mooney's been shooting great in these playoffs. They might be in for an upset there. I'd be interested to see. I could go and follow that one if they make it to regional semis next week. Would be definitely a fun one that I would jump on the opportunity. But Springfield, at the moment, they look like the favorites to make it through to the next round. So that being said, let's go ahead and move out of it, move into college basketball. The preview will start over in the scarlet and gray territory. The Ohio State Buckeyes hosting the Spartans of Michigan State tonight. Sparty's lost 4 of the last 5, yet somehow managed to pull off that win against Purdue 68-65 just the other day on the 26th. Lost their first game, though, of the year to their rivals in that team up north. Ohio State, they got the 2 teams from that state up north to finish out the season. They've lost 3 of their last 5, but I'm expecting here in the late stages, trying to fight for some positioning here with Iowa for that 4 or 5 spot in the tournament for Big Ten play. I got a feeling you're going to see a different Buckeye team hit the floor. At least that's what I'm hoping for. This team, they've looked lifeless, man. Their last few games, I haven't got a chance to watch the full things of them, but from what I've been reading after the fact and videos posted, it feels like this team, their first half team, and I think that's one of the biggest problems. They need to figure out how to finish. They got all the opportunities in the world in the first half to keep these games in. And I mean, all these games are coming down pretty close for most of them, and they just end up giving it away at the end of these games. And they need to find a way to fight for the entire thing because they were down 4 to Maryland. They lost by 15. In that second half, they were just completely falling apart and they lost 75-60. But this is a team that was good. They beat Illinois on the road. This isn't some schmuck team, but at times they come out flat in the second half. If they start getting foul calls going against them, they don't know how to react. And I think they have a similar problem I've talked about with Purdue. No killer mentality. They got great players all around, just like Purdue. To me, this team would be a top 5 team if they had killer mentality, and they got great players that are probably going to be, in the NBA. Don't know how long they'll be in the NBA for. Definitely some G League players, I think. But this team doesn't have that killer mentality that allows a group to win. And I don't think Michigan State has the players. I think they got more of a killer mentality. I mean, I think you saw that against Purdue when it came down to the very end. They
Well,
were
I don't
able
think
to have
Purdue
guys,
has their killer mentality
fight
anymore.
right down in there. And Purdue didn't have that killer mentality that I've talked about all
They
season.
haven't had it.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like this Michigan State. They don't have the players, but they got that ability to win. They got that fight in them that they're going to lose a lot more games than they should be winning. I mean, you look down at their last 8 games; they've lost 6 of them. They beat Indiana and Purdue, while have lost along the way to teams like Rutgers and Penn State. And obviously last time out a 17-point loss to their rivals. So it's at the point with this Michigan State team. It's just a lot of I think a lot more questions than answers right now for what they can do at the end of this one. And I think Ohio State's in a similar boat. They got to figure out how to finish this season and take their 2 rivals out here in the next week and a half. So I'm hoping they can do it. I mean, they got Sparty coming up tonight, and then they got that team up north coming up on Sunday. So 1 week left of Big Ten play. I'm hoping my Buckeyes roll through. I'm picking Ohio State in this game. 6-point favorite. They're in the shot, Value City Arena. So I'm hoping they can give this one a good run and take out 2 final wins to end out the season, take some confidence into the postseason, and make that run in the March and make a Big Ten run too. I don't want to see this team as a first-round exit in the Big Ten tournament. I think this squad, if they can find that mentality to start winning in big moments and play big in the second half, I think they're a good team to watch out for to make some noise in that Big Ten tournament, because we know they can beat teams like Illinois, who sits at the top of the bracket, or potentially top of the bracket here. We'll see how things finish off. They beat Wisconsin, the number 1 team currently in the Big Ten. This isn't a team that you look at and go, oh, they're just going to get run over. Their one loss to the teams ahead of them came from Purdue, and they lost by 3 points. This is a really solid basketball team, and they just have to find out how to win when they're not going up against these top teams, because that's really where they've struggled the most. When they've had to go up against a team like last year in Oral Roberts, they take them for granted sometimes. And when they get put in a close one, I think they kind of give up a little bit in that second half sometimes if they're in a close game against a team they shouldn't be close with.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying there. But, I mean, Michigan State, I mean, look, I'm looking at the last 5 games here, and a bunch of them Ohio State played too. Like, look at the Iowa game. Like, Michigan State got blown out by Iowa, where Ohio State kind of kept in with it. So that's what I'm trying to make the pick right there. I mean, I know Ohio State lost to Maryland and Nebraska, but I mean, close. I mean, they got beat by Maryland, but I mean, they kept it in with Nebraska. I mean, the last
team that they should have run away from. Nebraska had an 8-win season going into that one.
Yeah, I mean, some of these games for Michigan State, I'm like, really? I mean, the Illinois game, I mean, 79-74, but how do you lose by 17 to Michigan? Like this, how? I don't understand that. After beating Purdue too. I mean, I know Purdue, and I think Purdue's seriously, and I know you do too, is on their way out. That they've lost that killer mentality that they once had. You know who has that killer mentality? Rutgers. That's why they're beating top teams like this. So I mean, I don't know. Some of these
teams, also with that fact too, that Rutgers has a chance to potentially overtake Ohio State here in the Big Ten standings if Ohio State drops these last 2. So they got to stay alive right now, because this Big Ten race, it's coming down to the wire. I mean, there's no guarantee that anybody's going to be in this thing for that Big Ten tournament. I don't remember how many teams get into that
Big Ten tournament. Doesn't everybody get in?
I think it might. I'm pulling it up here.
I think everybody gets in. I don't know. It used to be that way.
I mean, they probably do.
I mean,
yeah, every team gets in, but I mean, you definitely want that higher spot. I mean,
oh yeah, so you can have home court.
Right, get that home court advantage. And where Ohio State sits right now with that 5 seed. They wouldn't have to play until the second week. So I mean, they get that. Or actually, I guess it's Yeah, second week on March 10th, or second day of it, I should say, on March 10th. So any more days you can get off. I mean, if they can bump themselves up to a 4 seed, then they get 2 days more rest than the rest of these teams. So getting that 4 spot right now, which I think you pretty much have Iowa, Ohio State, Rutgers fight to the finish line for that 4 seed. And if Ohio State takes Michigan and Michigan State in these last two, one, they're going to hurt those two teams as well in Big Ten tournament play. They're going to be dropping from 7 and 8 seeds potentially down to 9 and 10s and have to play on that first day if they drop a little bit too far in these final weekend of the Big Ten play. So I think some interesting breakdowns of what's going on with the Big Ten right now. Big game on the line basically is what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I'm still figuring out who to pick in this game because it could go both ways. Like, I'm gonna flip a coin. Yeah, let me find one.
Oh man,
Got a jar full of change.
All right, Matt. I flipped the coin. It landed tails.
No. Let me flip my coin. Okay, heads. We'll go heads. Ohio State. Tails. Michigan State. You ready? All right, here we go. It's heads. Ohio State.
All right. One way to make a pick, that's for sure.
I might keep that around. I'm going to keep that out here.
So Matt's starting to pick games based on coin flips. We'll see how that works out for him. But that game tonight at 7 p.m., Ohio State currently 6-point favorite to go into that one. Next one here, we'll go to the other team we were talking about just a minute ago, Iowa, and that team up north, Michigan. It's a 2-point favorite right now at home for the Wolverines. I don't think they're going to live up to that favorite. I think Iowa's going to come in here on the road and potentially pull that upset. I mean, they got a good shot at doing that. They're going to have to play good on the road. But, I mean, if they want to hold on to that 4 seed right now in the Big Ten tournament, they got to go out and they got to show up here in this game, and they can't afford to lose this one at home. I mean, on the road.
No, they can't at all. But Michigan, they're so discombobulated. I mean, yeah, they pull off some wins here and there. Is Juwan Howard back yet?
No, he's done for the regular season. He'll be back next weekend.
Next weekend? Okay.
Yeah, let me see. What does start? He'll be back Monday officially.
Okay. But, yeah, I'm going Iowa here.
Yeah, you're going Iowa. Iowa's been bad on the road, but I don't know. Michigan's just 10-4 at home. I know it's going to be a hard place to go into at the Chrysler Center, but I got to go Iowa here. And obviously with it being, rivalry week as well, I can't go picking that team exactly. So I think you're going to see the Wolverines put up a good fight at home, though. I don't think this is going to be a runaway. But, I mean, you look at Iowa these last 5 games. I mean, they lost to Michigan at home on their own court by 5 points. Since then, tear. Ohio State, they won by double digits. Beat Michigan State by 26 points. Double-digit win against Nebraska. 21-point win against Northwestern. I think they're coming back in here with some serious momentum. And I think Michigan, they're on an up-and-down mark right now. I mean, they beat Iowa, lost to Wisconsin. Beat Rutgers, lost to Illinois. Beat Michigan State, now they're going to lose to Iowa here. It just feels like this team is riding a pattern this season, and I think it's the wrong time, and they're going cold here at the stretch.
Yeah, I think so too. Just, yeah, I don't want to talk about them.
Well, okay. It's not like it's our jobs or anything, but moving on, I suppose. We'll go Arkansas. The Razorbacks taking on Tennessee. The Razorbacks now on a 5-game win streak, nearly sneaking it out against LSU in that last game. And Tennessee,
that was close.
Coming off one of their worst performances of the year. They almost lost to UGA, the team that only beat Alabama on the season somehow. Nobody knows how that one happened still. I mean, that's their only win in conference was against Alabama, who was 19-11, was a top 10 team at that time. I think they were top 25 at that point. So I don't remember if they were top 10 or not, but Tennessee only won that game by 7. It was a poor performance. They're on a 3-game win streak of their own. They did lose last time out on the road against Arkansas. I'd like to see Tennessee, defend their home court. I mean, I think you've seen a lot of that this season. And I know I've mentioned earlier that these teams out here in the SEC haven't been the best on the road when it comes down to that. Arkansas 5-3 when they've hit the road. Not a lot of chances to see what they can do out there. Great when they're at home. Tennessee hasn't lost when they're at home yet. I think they finished this thing out perfect at home. I know I was talking about Indiana last night. I was like, oh, you can't lose your final game of the season at home, and they end up dropping that one anyways in a devastating game.
Ron Harper Jr.
Yeah.
Ron Harper Jr. is something, man. I like watching him play.
Yeah, I mean 100%. But I mean, Indiana was 14-3 at home. It's like, nah, there's no way they lose to Rutgers, who at the time was 3-9 when they hit the road, and Rutgers somehow pulls that off. So I'm not saying it's out of the running, but I think Tennessee is going to have a good game here. I think this is probably one of the best matchups you're going to see out of the SEC in the late going into this weekend, and this is actually the final game for these two teams after tonight. So one final game, you got to finish on a win, cap it off, right? I'm going to go Tennessee in this one. I know, Matt, I got a feeling you're going Razorbacks, though.
Yeah, I like this Razorbacks team. I'm sticking with them for a little bit. And, I like, they hung on against LSU. I mean, LSU's going to take it to you. I don't care what their reputation is or whatever. They're still going to come out and play you a hard game. And I think they might have taken them a little lightly, too. But I think they're going to
got some good players, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I think they're going to, take Tennessee a little bit more seriously. I mean, I think this is going to be another close one. Last time they played, they beat them. So they beat them by 10. So I expect that.
For the season sweep, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see that one also tonight, or actually, I think this Saturday, never mind. Next game, though, for us, the Texas Longhorns down in Big 12 country. They got the number 6 ranked Kansas Jayhawks as Texas trying to stir up the pot up there. They got the 4 spot right now, looking like it's pretty locked up going into that final week. So they should be playing in that first week of they'll be playing one to be the last few teams to play in that Big 12 tournament is what I'm looking at here. Both these teams pretty much a locked up position. Probably won't change too much. Does open the door for Texas Tech to potentially take the 2 spot away from Kansas if they were to go down tonight. But I don't think that's really going to be a focus for either one of these. I think you're going to see a lot of bench players get some nice playing time in this game. I don't think these teams are going to go too hard against one another. I mean, they're going to go at each other for sure, but I don't think they're going to be putting as much into this game as I think you would if this was a mid-season game or Big 12 tournament time. I think both these squads are going to come in, shoot the ball, a lot more outside shots, I think, in this game. And I'm going to go Kansas. I think they're a better shooting team overall. 4% higher in that field goal percentage on the season. So I think that's going to propel them. Plus 2 straight losses. I don't think Kansas is dropping a 3rd straight after their loss to TCU 2 nights ago.
No, that was shocking. Now that TCU came in and upset them. But I haven't really been high on this Texas team. They have some surprising wins here and there, but I don't think they're going to be Kansas. I think Kansas is just more of a solid team all around, and they're going to make a big run. So I'm going to stick with Kansas here.
Yeah, for sure, but that's going to do it for the not the Casual Sports Podcast. We still got a little bit to go here on the show. What
about
basketball portion of this one, though? So
there's a lot of good games coming.
There's not a lot of games going on in this final week that are really intriguing to talk about.
There's always the Duke in North Carolina, but
what was that?
There's always the Duke in North Carolina.
I got to save some games for tomorrow, though, too.
Okay.
I can't go burning through them all here tonight, but should be an interesting weekend though to talk about in the college basketball. Interesting to see how things come out. Obviously, at this point, it's pretty much seeding going down for a lot of these teams. And I know the Ohio Valley Conference tournament, they're underway, and I think Horizon League they're underway too because YSU lost in the first round somehow. I don't know exactly.
You know what YSU stands for?
Yeah. You're not winning today, but
man. You screwed up.
They did, man. That was a big screw up for them in that one.
I told my professor came in yesterday. He's like, "Man, I can't believe they lost last night." And I'm like, "You know what YSU stands for?" And I told him, "You screwed up," and he about lost it. He's like, "I've never heard that before." But how?
It's just one of those games you want back after it's done. You're like, we should have won that. You came out. To me,
still got the women's take on Oakland.
When you lose a game like that, though, that's got to fall back on coaching. You weren't prepared for that game I think that falls on coaching for not getting them ready for that one, because it was a good team this season. They had a lot of good players and some big moments throughout the year. This was a team that there was one point we were fighting for first place in that Horizon League, and they flopped at the end of the season. That's as simple as it can be. They had a chance for a potential, March Madness tournament if they had ran through the Horizon League tournament, as they could have. They had all the players to do it this season, with the transfers they brought in.
Could have.
And some of the younger recruits. This was just a complete blown opportunity for YSU this year. They had one, and I think when you had all this talent out there and they fall short in the first round against the team they shouldn't, that's on coaching from me. If you come out and you lay a dud like they did, that's the coaching not getting these kids prepared for the moment enough. Because at the end of the day, these are kids, Matt. They're just like you and I. We don't know what to expect to go into one of those games, against someone that we should be able to beat. Personally, I'd probably go into it. This will be a runaway. There's not going to be any problems with this one.
I still think that's
simple, but to me, the coaches are the ones that got to go. Hey, no, get your head out of the cloud. Stop dreaming. Here now, let's go.
I still think that this is one of the better YSU teams that I've seen, honestly.
And that's what I'm saying. They had a fantastic team this year. Oh, yeah. They blew their opportunity to use that.
I mean, They filled the void with Quisenberry leaving, and as well as Nas Bohannon leaving as well. Dwayne Cohill came in and ran point guard. I mean, he did a pretty darn good job. Then you have, of course, Akuche that was on every game. So, I mean, hats off to him. Akuche this is his last year. So, hopefully we can, find some other pieces.
Yeah, I mean, they're losing a decent bit of seniors this year. Akuche is gone. Covington will be gone. Grayson Kelly's out. Jameer Thomas, Tevin Ollison, Colin Gurley, all those guys are gone. So it's going to be up to this younger class, a solid young class, too. I mean, we got a lot of freshmen on this team and some sophomores as well. So they definitely got a bright future. I mean, getting, a nice run down this season. I definitely think, there's some room to grow. And I hope that they can do that and bring this team back next season with some new freshmen coming in as well, and maybe a few other transfers from elsewhere, and put something together, because this seems like a city that's ready to win, man. Every time you see a team from around this area, whether it's high school or college, they start performing well. The fans start showing up because this is a city that's desperate to win, man. I think out of every city in Ohio, this team just feels so left out when it comes to winning. I mean, Cleveland's got 3 sports teams. Columbus has Ohio State in the Blue Jackets. Cincinnati, they got, plenty of sports down there. I mean, you go out near Toledo and, the Rockets, they tend to have some good programs. They got the Mud Hens. Akron's got the Rubber Ducks, a team that, has quite a few championships to their name here in the last
Scrappers.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Scrappers, but you see a lot of support in the Mahoning Valley for the Scrappers when they start playing. To have a draft league team get as much support as they do, that's not something you really see a lot. This is a city that wants sports. They want to win. I mean, we got the Phantoms here, but there's no high-profile team besides Youngstown State. Really, is probably the highest profile of really anything, and it just feels like, especially on campus, it's just all the hype building up into the season. Season starts, and with basketball, it seems they ride that high to the end of it and they fall short. Football season, you get the hype and it's immediately smacked out the door in the first game. That's just how it seems to go here. But it's a city that wants to win, and we had a team that could have won this season and made it down to March. And it's disappointing, I think, at this point to have to look at this team and go, man, that was a great year. Too bad it's over, right? I mean, it's just one of those moments. There was no satisfaction out of this season.
No. But hey, we still got the women's play tonight against Oakland. So,
and you know what? After calling a lot more girls basketball this season, I got a lot more respect for how much effort it takes to put in here. I mean, I think a lot of times, if you don't ever look at women's basketball, I don't think you realize, hey, we got some really talented athletes out here. They don't have the height. They're not going to be slamming this thing down. But after the regional semifinals I saw yesterday, there are some great talents out there, and I think a lot of people kind of get swept under the rug and go off into other sports because no one comes out to support these games. I don't feel like they have that same energy of why they joined it. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping women's YSU team can make a nice run here as well.
We'll see. I hope they do too.
I mean, they're a 2 seed, so they got to do something, right?
Yep.
2 versus 7 tonight, Oakland. obviously beat up UIC in that last matchup too. So I'm hoping for something. I'd like to see them make a nice run here. Maybe get into the women's March Madness. We'll be talking about that then.
That'd be sweet.
Right?
That'd be sweet. Even like an NIT.
Yeah.
All
right, well, let's get in here. NBA preview this one. One game to talk about here. The Grizzlies tonight going into Boston in the TD Garden take on the Celtics. This is a really great game. I think maybe one of the biggest points about this is we've been looking at the Celtics all season, and I feel like we keep just swiping them off the table like, nah, it's Boston. They suck. They're not going to do anything. And we wrote them off early, too. I mean, they were on a terrible run to start out this season. I mean, they were down there in the bottom 5 of the Eastern Conference in the early stages. But going into that All-Star break and now coming out of it, this team is heating up. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're now 37-27 overall. A win here tonight puts them over the Cavs in the Eastern Conference as well as Cleveland's dealing with injuries galore right now. So I think it's a really great chance for the Celtics right now to take a jump if they can get past the Grizzlies, which is obviously no easy mix because the Grizzlies are a fantastic team. I mean, we keep talking about it. And obviously with Jaylen Brown out for the Celtics in tonight's game, I think it's going to be a hard one to keep up. I think with that athleticism and speed, and, Jaylen Brown, not always your outside target, but he's a guy that, can run defensively. He's like a more athletic Marcus Smart who can shoot a little bit better.
Yeah.
He's really taken a lot of Marcus Smart's game and kind of applied it to his own. And I really like what Jaylen Brown's future could potentially hold for him. And I think he would have kept them in this game a little bit better against the Grizzlies and given them a shot to win. I feel like, I'm going to be taking the Grizzlies in this one. I mean, they're on a tear again. I mean, they beat the Bulls and Spurs in back-to-back games. And this team right now, I think a win for them might end up putting them over the Warriors, depending on how the Warriors fare against the Mavericks tonight. But the Warriors right now, 2 straight losses to the Mavs and the Timberwolves. So the door is open right now for the Grizzlies to take that 2 seed out of the Western Conference and, continue to climb back into it against the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, this Grizzlies team, every time they're on TV, I'm like, man, I want to watch them. I put them on somehow, some way. And I just love watching this team. If I don't watch it, I'll go watch the highlights the next morning because I know I'm going to see something. I always start my day watching NBA highlights, and some of it is, Memphis Grizzlies. And they're an amazing team to watch. And honestly, that'd be really cool to see, Grizzlies Suns or Grizzlies Warriors type of matchup in the Western Conference Finals. That'd probably be the best Western Conference Final you'll ever see. If it's down between those top 3 teams, that's going to be sweet. You're going to have Ja Morant or Stephen Curry or Chris Paul and Ayton and Devin Booker. Like that what a matchup that would be. That'd be insane. But I'm looking forward to it. The season's winding down. How many games left?
In the NBA? Well, I mean, the Suns at 50-12, so 20 games left.
20 games left? Yeah, it's coming. It's coming down.
I mean, yeah, but for anybody to overtake the Suns at this point, I mean, they're going to have to the Suns are going to have to lose
50-12.
games. I mean, consider the fact they're 7.5 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors right now. That means they have to lose almost 50% of their games to finish out the season. The Suns are really close to locking up that final seed here. They're close to locking up the 1 seed.
Oh yeah, they're 50-12, man. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've already clinched a playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken. So, or at least right on the edge of doing that here in the next week.
Now, obviously they can't break, the Warriors record or even the Bulls record, but I mean, I think the record before the Bulls did it was like 69-13. They're at 50-12. Do you think they can pull off 19 straight wins?
Yes, they did it earlier, man. They did it earlier this season. I don't see any reason why not they couldn't make that run. So
what is it? They're 8-2 their last 10, so they've lost a couple here and there. But
they haven't officially locked up that playoff spot. But considering they are 18 games ahead of the Clippers, so I think you got 2 more wins for them, 2 or 3 more wins, and they've locked up a spot in the playoffs.
Wow, they're on a mission.
Yeah, and consider the fact that they're 24 games ahead of New Orleans, who right now is the 10 seed, which is that play-in game cutoff. They're guaranteed to at least be, in a play-in game, even if they lost 20 straight.
Oh yeah,
if they lose their last 20 games of the season, they're still ahead of the Lakers.
Yeah.
So the Suns right now, actually,
they're on a mission. They were snubbed. They felt that they were snubbed last year, and they're coming back they're pissed.
Yeah, so
quite frankly, they're
kind
mad.
of. Yeah, I don't know why they don't have them marked down actually on NBA.com as clinching the playoffs. Because I'm looking at it. I mean, if they're 18 games ahead of the Clippers and 22 and a half games ahead of the Lakers,
either.
20 games left, they should be.
Maybe they just don't make it official until like the end or like the last.
Yeah, they might just. I mean, the website might not be updated just yet. So on it.
Yeah.
Still working out stats. Stats
that is true. But it should be a good game. Yeah, Boston. I mean, definitely making a huge run. Like you said, 8-2. I mean, they're right there under the Cavs. Cavs are just injury riddled right now, and they're trying. Once they get everybody healthy, we'll be there. So I don't think we'll fall into the play-in, but if we do, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've had a pretty good season, but I still think they'll have a chance at maybe a 3 seed. Honestly, I mean, they're only still 4.5 games out of first. They just got to go on another run. They got to get everybody healthy too, or come up with a scheme that works with the players you have that are healthy. Because, I mean, you're here, you got to do it with the players you got. But it should be a pretty good game tonight, no matter what happens. Celtics, Grizzlies.
Yeah, we're both taking the Grizz now. Well, let's go into the NHL here. Matt, we got one of your least favorite teams, the Bruins, tonight. I already know who you're picking this one. You're taking the Las Vegas Golden Knights at home against the Boston Bruins in this game. I'm actually going Vegas as well in this one. My point differential leans a little bit more in favor of Vegas going into this game. I know this Bruins team, though, they're tough, and they've been obviously fighting through that Atlantic Division, which I know you're not as high on, but I think there's still some good teams up there they've been working against with the Lightning and the Panthers and the Maple Leafs in that discussion. Yeah. Rest of that conference, yeah, I'll give it to you. Not very great, but I think you can say that about a few of them. You get to that bottom half, and it's like, maybe not, except for really
the Sabres.
The Pacific. I think the Pacific Division is a pretty strong one throughout, and obviously the Metropolitan, as you've been talking about a lot here.
Oh yeah,
Pacific and Metro on the Monday, Wednesday shows, really getting those deep dives into some NHL. Love to see it, but I think this Pacific Division, with the way that Golden Knights have really been playing in it, and the way they've been able to kind of dominate some of these matchups they've had when they've gone into it, and I think they're both kind of playing around 500 right now. So I got Golden Knights coming out of it. My differential leans me that way, so that's the way I'm going with it.
Yeah, I mean, look at that Pacific Division, though. The only really bad team you really have is Seattle. I mean, they're an expansion team. What do you expect?
Right.
But, I mean, even San Jose, I mean, they're at 54 points. That is not bad at all. That is right in the medium right there at 54 points right now. And, you know, you go up 58, 61. They're all within each other.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're not far behind from each other. Like if the San Jose Sharks decided like, hey, we want to start winning, they could be right up there with Edmonton and Las Vegas, just like that. Just takes a run. That's how the St. Louis Blues won a couple years ago when they won the NHL Stanley Cup. They were, I think, going into the All-Star break, they were the worst team in the NHL. And they ended up coming back and winning the whole thing. So it's pretty cool how fast teams switch.
Yeah, I mean, it can go like that. So, I mean, it's still a long ways to go, obviously, with what could potentially happen. And I think for the Kraken this season, the fact that they're an expansion team and they're not the worst team in the league. I mean, there's 3 teams below them in the Flyers who have been here for a long time, the Canadians who have been here for a long time, and then the Coyotes who decided to play hockey in the desert.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And it's also like what the worst run franchise.
How are they supposed to be good when they're too? How are they supposed to practice and be good if their ice is melting?
I don't get it, man.
Me either.
All right, well, let's talk here a little NFL Combine. We got 20 minutes left on the show. Sports went a little bit faster than I thought, but NFL Combine's been going on this week. First day of the 40-yard dashes start. Almost immediately following Power Hour at 4 p.m. So should be fun. Today we got the tight ends, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. So it's pretty much everyone's favorite day to tune into that combine, see the numbers that are coming out of it. And in the quarterback spot, a good slew of guys going in there. I didn't think this class was very big, But you got Matt Corral, the headliner right now, Kenny Pickett, who just measured in hand size at 8.5 inches, one of the lowest marks we've seen in the last 10 years. Michael Vick, the last one to be at 8.5 inches. But I just was reading this article as you were talking there for a minute. In the last 5 years, no quarterback whose hands have been smaller than 8.5 inches have even stepped foot on an NFL football field to play a game at the quarterback position. So, right there on the edge. And apparently this is something that these, guys are looking at as a potential problem for a guy like Kenny Pickett. I don't know really why if there's a problem with Kenny Pickett, I don't think it's with, his hands or his arm strength. Maybe accuracy, and maybe that's where they're going. His hands aren't big enough for the football or whatever. But I think with Kenny Pickett, I think all of his skills can be developed. I think he's not a starter right away, but I think he's a career backup guy that can kind of jump around from team to team and maybe make a statement somewhere else out there. But I think he's a guy that you definitely got to watch out for. I don't know if you can really call him a dark horse in this one, but I feel like all the noise has been going against him since he departed from Pitt.
A lot of the speculation is, you only had that one good year at Pitt. I mean, he was there 5 years, and this was clearly his last. I mean, last year was his best season, and I mean, he brought in the Heisman talk. So,
which shows a hell of a lot of development to work with this team, stay there 5 years, commitment, loyalty, right there.
Yeah.
Stay with this team with the transfer portal.
Which is why I really want.
Could have been out in at USC or down at Oklahoma. They love transfers. I mean, potentially going anywhere else that would have taken him, but he stayed committed to Pitt through that long run. Took all 5 years, in that home city, and was just like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to play. And I think a lot of teams would love to buy into that loyalty of Kenny Pickett.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, Pittsburgh would be one. I mean, I know
they've already said they're looking at Malik Willis.
Yeah.
But other guys running today for quarterbacks, Desmond Ritters, Malik Willis, Carson Strong, Jack Cohn. Oh, I also got to mention Matt Corral isn't running today. He's not doing any of the physical tests. He's going to be throwing, but due to his injured leg in the playoff game, he's only going to be throwing in the combine this week. Jack Cohn out of Notre Dame. You got Sam Howell from UNC, Derek King from Miami, Bailey Zapp from Western Kentucky.
Zapp.
This guy's going to be a nice pick.
I bet you this dude's the next Brady.
Pick on Zapp, and I think he's going to be the Davis Mills of this year's draft.
Davis Mills? What should be the next Brady?
I just mean of the Houston Texans getting that late third round pick and thrown right into the mix. I feel like he's going to be that guy this season. I don't think you can ever say it. We're never going to see a Tom Brady-esque career again. I don't think that's going to happen. EJ Perry out of Brown, Brock Purdy out of Iowa State, a guy who was really high up in draft. His draft stock was high going into the season. It crashed. I'm interested to see where this guy falls in, and I think he might be a hugely underrated talent to come out potentially with that draft stock crashing. I think he's going to come into this combine, and if he gets into the NFL, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and I'm excited to see what he can do with that, because when this guy's on, he is on. You also got Cole Kelly out of Southeastern Louisiana, Caleb Ellaby out of Western Michigan, Dustin Crum out of Kent State University, and Skylar Thompson out of Kansas State. So a nice group of quarterbacks running today, and obviously a massive wide receiver class that we can't go over, so we'll give you the highlights here. Traylon Burks out of Arkansas, right now the highest rated wide receiver in the draft by nearly 0.2 points, which is a lot when you go into this one. Garrett Wilson's running, Jamison Williams, Chris Olave, so 3 former Buckeyes are the 4 top guys in this year's wide receiver class. You got Drake London out of USC, a very underrated talent. Jalen Tolbert, South Alabama, a team that nobody ever looks at. Jahan Dotson, David Bell's going into this one. You got John Mechie, Trey Turner out of VT, George Pickens out of Georgia. Looking down through here, you got Justin Ross out of Clemson. He's a little bit farther down, right next to Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. Those 2 guys might make a splash in a potential 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick as well. I think they'd be good guys to watch out for come that NFL preseason to see if they can get some reps in somewhere. You got some guys out of Notre Dame and Kevin Austin Jr. A lot of big talents coming around, and you got your lowest rated guy right now is Johnny Johnson III from Oregon. Got to watch out. Oregon was a good team this year. And also Ty Fryfogel's going into the draft from Indiana, so he's finally gone. So you got to watch out for that. He's a guy, man. Fryfogel always seems to make the play when you need him. I think he's a guy to watch out for as well.
Yeah, I do too. But
over in the tight end class before you go talking there,
Yeah, go ahead.
I like this one. You got Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, the third highest guy. Kate Otten out of Washington, a big boy. Trey McBride, Colorado State. You know, the Mountain West builds them big. Out of Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers, Isaiah Likely a first 2-round pick. I had to.
All right.
Good tight end class. They've already started testing at the bench reps today. That's or bench press, I should say, not reps. That sounds weird. But they've started testing in that one. Currently, the leader goes from Jelani Woods. He's got 24 reps for the tight end class out of Virginia. He currently leads that. Highest wide receiver right now goes to Isaiah Weston of UNI. Not a lot of wide receivers, though, have touched the bar just yet. Josh Johnson, the only other one from Tulsa, who I think is another guy to watch out for. That Tulsa wide receiver room was putting up some talents this year. But those are the only thing. Bench press is the only
Tulsa
so far for anything coming out of the NFL draft. But Matt, go ahead. Talk about some of these players here you're excited to see in the NFL.
Yeah,
combine.
I mean,
today out of the tight ends, quarterbacks, and wide receiver rooms.
I mean, with that quarterbacks, I like Kenny Pickett. I'm just praying. Please, Pittsburgh, do not pick Malik Willis. Please just don't pick him at all. Just don't. I don't want that at all. Honestly, I want them to go free agent route or stick with somebody. I'd rather have Rudolph over Willis. Honestly. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest comment I've ever heard.
No,
nobody wants Rudolph.
Comment. He has more NFL experience, and
what did he do with it? Don't say you want freaking Rudolph.
Listen, I'd rather have him than Willis.
That's the worst I've ever heard.
Rudolph if you're going to draft Willis, because he's just another bust.
Why? What about him as a bust?
Listen,
Tell me one stat about Malik Willis. Tell me one.
Well, I don't need to look at any of the stats.
There you go. You don't know what you're talking about, Matt.
Listen, Liberty is not look, okay, I like the Hugh Freeze coach. I like that. I think he's a good coach. But he doesn't have a lot of experience, at all. He's just like, Trey Lance from last year. He's just like
what's Trey Lance about to do? Oh, become the starting quarterback of the 49ers.
Yeah, we're about to see how that is going to pan out. So
he's played and he's looked just fine. He looks like every other rookie from the year.
We'll see.
Your criticism is completely unwarranted on Trey Lance at the moment because nothing has shown that he's going to be a bad quarterback.
I'm not with it with those quarterbacks. They're young. This whole class is horrible. Okay? Really. It's not the best we've seen, and they shouldn't be going for their future guy in this class, period. They should go free agency or wait till next year. Tank it or whatever. Don't pick it. If you're going to pick somebody here, you might as well just tank. I'm just putting it that way. Matt Corral is probably one of the better ones, but he's got the injury. Like, people can't avoid that. The guy's not even running; he's just throwing today. So they shouldn't be going in there and picking their quarterback this year. They should go offensive line to help the next guy in there, stay alive. Because, a lot of teams should be doing that too. Especially Cincinnati, because how many times did Burrow get sacked?
Too damn many.
Too many. So pick up your offensive line before you get your star quarterback. Okay? It's not going to be from this class.
Hey, man, you can't say go pick an offensive lineman before your future quarterback because the Bengals did it just fine. They went to the freaking Super Bowl and almost won.
They did. But
they didn't need an offensive line. They probably would have won it if they had one.
Probably, yeah.
But Matt, I think your old school way of thinking here with the way the Steelers have always done it, I don't think that's going to win these days.
I don't know.
You've seen it the last few years. They've had fantastic teams, but where has it gone? Absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest thing. I think this old way of
either Rudolph or Haskins
football, I think, is getting pushed out the door.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a spot for it anymore in the NFL of you have to do this a certain way to be able to compete, because look who we just had in the Super Bowl. Nothing about those two teams were traditional in any sense of the imagination.
No.
They were two offensive, explosive teams. What did we see last year? Explosive offense with the Chiefs. No offensive line there. It cost them. And Tampa Bay, an explosive offense. It's no longer build up a great defense and go do something with it.
Well,
You
I
need an
mean,
offense
Tampa
in
Bay's
today's
defense
NFL
was
league.
good, though.
What?
And so Tampa Bay's defense was pretty good in that Super Bowl. And so was the Rams. I mean, Aaron Donald finished the game.
Yeah, but
So,
the main focal point of those teams isn't
Yeah.
the defense. It has always been the offense. When you were
Yeah.
talking Tampa Bay last year, you were going, oh, yeah, they have Tom Brady. Kansas City, they had a terrible defense and no offensive line. And you know, we still talk about them every season as one of the best teams in the NFL. Look at
Yeah.
Green Bay. They have a mid-tier defense every season, but they have Aaron Rodgers. And modern day NFL football is about offense. And it was still about offense in the 90s, but people have been so focused on building a defense first these last 20 years. Look at a team with a great defense and absolutely no offense this year. Cleveland Browns. What did they do? I'm throwing my Browns under the bus here. What did they do with a great defense and absolutely no offense? They lost.
Yeah.
This old way of thinking of, hey, I'm going to build up a defense first to give my quarterback the ball. No, you build up that offense. Do what you just saw from Tampa, from LA, from Cincinnati, I think really should be the one to build off of. Get a solid running back. Get you a guy that can go top 10 in the league. Get some wide receivers and get a tight end and just start throwing the rock, man. I think the days of having 7-footers on the offensive line are coming to an end. You see this in college. This is where that transition's coming from. Last 15 years in college football, the best teams, yes, have had some good offensive lines, but what makes them the most successful is having explosivity. If you can go on a 13-play drive, that's fine. That stopped when we hit the college football playoff because that's what made Oregon so lethal. They were going on 13-play drives in 2 minutes to wear down everybody else. Nowadays, you're seeing Alabama, Ohio State making 2 plays and they're in the end zone, and that's what we're calling the best teams, and that's how they're playing the best, and that's just what we're seeing. That's going to come to the NFL, whether NFL teams want it or not. That is the way football is moving. The NFL game is about 10, 15 years behind what is going on in college. It always has been this way. Things are developed in college, and it takes 10 to 15 to bring them into the NFL. Mobile quarterbacks 10, 15 years ago in college football were all of the rage, and that's just what it's been these last 15 years. And now you're seeing it jump into the NFL more and more.
We are.
We are. Really the start of that, of this 21st century of, hey, this can be successful, and then they bring in all these other guys, Lamar. I mean, everybody can move these days. You have to be mobile.
I don't have a problem with mobile quarterbacks at all. And, Malik Willis has, the guy can run, okay? He has speed. I'll give him that. He has got a strong arm, too.
But there's a reason this guy is high in the draft despite his numbers not telling you that.
I've seen the inconsistency.
Matt, you're going to see inconsistency out of all these guys. I can go right now and watch Sam Howell all season long, one of the highest rated quarterbacks.
Man. This whole class is inconsistent.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You could have gone back and found inconsistencies with Tua. You could have found it. Yeah. You found a ton of them with Tom Brady. Did it matter? No.
Yeah.
It's all about developing these players.
I know Pittsburgh likes them, and it's Kevin Colbert's last pick before he retires. So if they're gonna pick him, they're gonna pick him. So obviously they see something that obviously they're gonna see more than we do.
I think the biggest thing the Steelers need.
It's offensive line.
No, I'm done with the offensive line talk when it comes to Pittsburgh because they don't do anything with it. They get offensive lines that dominate and they do nothing with it these days. It seems you had a great offensive line, really, not this past season or the season before, but you've had all great offensive lines for the last decade. In the last decade, how many Super Bowls do you have to show for it? Last decade, since 2012.
No Super Bowls.
Exactly. You've had great offensive lines. It's time to bring a new strategy into the NFL. Mike Tomlin, his career has come to the point, it's adapt or die. And that's just the way football has always been. You have to adapt to the modern day league or else it's going to leave you behind. Look at Greg Popovich on the Spurs in the NBA. Refuses to adapt to modern NBA because he's about to retire. And because of it, his team is struggling. In that point, he has a great franchise down there, and he had one of the greatest tenures of all time, but he refused to modernize. What has Bill Belichick done? Completely modernized that Patriots football team. They were right back in the mix. They brought in a guy in Mac Jones who still fits the old bill, but is so much more mobile than Tom Brady ever could have been.
Oh, yeah.
And they modernize positions. You have to modernize. The Steelers, they continue to go hey, we got to be big steel workers. No, there is a spot in the NFL these days for smaller guys who are more mobile. Look at Najee Harris. That guy is a Steeler through and through the way he is built.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, they got some good rushing lanes out of him. Now bringing a quarterback as well that's mobile, and you are creating even more open lanes for Najee Harris. You're letting your wide receivers open up the field more because now the corners have to drop in and deflect that running potential. There's a good spot right now. I think we got a mobile class coming out, and I think that's why we're all saying it's so weak, because we don't have expert arm talents coming out of the draft this year. We got some guys that can move, and I think the biggest portion of what teams are looking for now is mobile quarterbacks. That is what you need to be successful in the NFL, because you saw it this season. The best quarterbacks were ones that can move.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I like the tight ends in here. I like that guy from, Coastal Carolina. The wide receivers, I mean, I like all of them. So
how about Grant Calcaterra as well out of SMU? I love Calcaterra. Every time I see that guy hit the field, he's always something fun to watch.
That.
He can go in there.
I like that that London guy from USC. I think he is underrated. I think you're in a wide receiver class with guys like, Chris Olave, Dotson's in there as well, Garrett Wilson. I mean, you're gonna be the underrated guy. So when you're in a class with names like that.
I think you're going to see, though, with some of these wide receivers and tight ends, you're going to be looking at your favorites still sitting around in round 2. Well, you got some guys maybe a little bit behind them that are going to get picked ahead of them. It always seems to happen. And I'm interested which one of these guys that like halfway down this list is going to be one of those first out. And I think Calcaterra or Jeremiah Hall from Oklahoma, he's worked with some great quarterbacks. I think bringing Jeremiah Hall to a team like Arizona, if they can bring back Kyler Murray, getting him a guy he's familiar with too, I think that could be a huge for a team like that as well. So I think at this point, it's also about getting some chemistry. If you got a young quarterback out there and he's maybe shown a little signs of struggle in this last season, building that chemistry, bring somebody in that he's familiar with, whether that's offense or I'd like to see somebody on offense. If you got a quarterback that he's unfamiliar, he's having difficulty building chemistry, bring in a guy he's familiar with on that offensive side and see what he can do with that.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now.
Jacksonville brought in Travis Etienne with Trevor Lawrence was, hey, you're going to an unfamiliar area, an unfamiliar situation, a lot of question marks. Bring in a rock that this guy has been comfortable with all 4 years at Clemson in Travis Etienne. That's what they did. And, you saw some nice development out of T-Law all season long.
Yeah, you did. But, I mean, the teams like Arizona, even Arizona, if you had another wide receiver, I mean, I know they have their main guys, but D-Hop went down.
I think you got to bring in, like, tight end. I think
they have Zach Ertz, and he's getting older, but if you get another wide receiver in there, just in case you got the, Hopkins goes down again, that would be nice to have like a, another guy like a London or even a Olave. But other teams though that really need receivers, I mean the Saints. And the Saints have picked Ohio State receivers. I mean they have Michael Thomas. So Saints, Chargers, even the Browns.
Saints love picking the Scarlet and Gray. They always have.
Oh yeah. So it's gonna be exciting. It's not all about the core. I think the wide receivers are way better.
He's 31 years old as a tight end. He's ready to retire. I mean, this is it. He's coming down to it. Zach Ertz is 31 years old. I mean, he's about to retire. He's had a long career for a tight end. I think Arizona can take advantage of that, take a tight end this season, and work him behind Zach Ertz this year, and then give him the run next year when Zach Ertz could potentially retire at that point. Yep. But unfortunately, we are out of time on the Casual Sports Podcast. We might be throwing out on Monday or Wednesday potentially with it being spring break next week for us too. We'll all be on the show most likely every day. It'll depend. We'll work it out behind the scenes. But we got a good shot to put in some at least a recap of the NFL Combine on Monday, as it'll end on Sunday. But that'll do it here. Power Hour coming up next. This has been the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison over there. We'll see y'all next time.